The video is called "Why Have So Many People Quit Classic WoW" from Goblin. And I just wanted to, it sounded very interesting. I have not seen it yet, but I wanted to see what his reasons are for so many people quitting Classic. Just on the basis that I have played Classic, I've played Cataclysm Classic recently. So I just wanted to see, maybe there's some reasons that I feel, might be the reason why I have played less Classic, etc. So we're just going to go ahead and give that video a try.
Quite surprising to say the least. It turns out the top choice was that people are not playing Classic WoW at all. A whopping 40%.
Wow. That's crazy. All right, so out of all the people asked, 40% don't play WoW. Cool, okay. 12% play Classic Era, 15% play Season of the Discovery, and then 33% play Classic Kata. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. I did,
Percent of people said they've stepped away from the game entirely.
It's
33 are playing.
It's the new one,
Classic,
Kata.
15 are playing Season of Discovery, and just 12
Nothing
are still
too
on
surprising.
Classic Era. So yes, we're seeing a huge population drop, but it's not exactly shocking. We always knew that by the time Kata Classic came around, interest in Classic WoW would wane. Kata isn't the cup of tea for many Classic WoW players. The ethos of a Classic WoW player is simple. Log in, slay some dragons with your friends, have a few beers, and score some loot. Rinse and repeat next week. Cataclysm still offers that experience, but the content isn't as casual friendly as it used to be, especially when you compare the heroic difficulty.
Yes, I fully agree. It is not. That was when I switched from... I first played Cataclysm Classic before I played Classic Era. And I had a lot more fun in Classic Era than playing Cataclysm Classic. I'm not big into endgame whatsoever, but just playing Cata Classic, it felt like I could not keep up, like whatsoever. It felt like I constantly need to do something in order to keep up, and just overall, it did not feel very rewarding. Playing Classic Era actually felt really good. Just logging in for an hour, getting like 1 bar of experience, something like that, pretty nice.
To Order hard modes. Also, a significant chunk of the original Classic audience also love the old school leveling zones, rich with exploration and non-linear quest lines, but with Cataclysm's revamp of Azeroth, that essence is lost for some players.
Okay, sorry about that. That was weird. It just threw me off. I could see it.
But you can get created by world record holding speed levelers. You can find the download link to that in the description. When Season of Discovery launched, it drew a staggering number of players, just under 500,000 logs.
Wow, that is a lot.
Classic level engagement. At peak times, you could easily...
I could see it though. I think a lot of people, me included, when SOT dropped, I was hoping it's going to be Classic Plus, but it's something new, something exciting, something that no one had really played before. Different take on everything, so made sense.
See over 300 group requests on the LG add-on on the highest population servers, but now SOD only has about half of its original population. Clearly, something went wrong. I've already made a whole video diving into the details, but to sum it up, SOD became everything Classic WoW players despise about retail. The current lineup of Classic WoW products just isn't hitting the mark for most players. Since the beginning of Classic, we've had a hardcore to semi-hardcore player base, much larger than people realise. These are the kind of players who won't cancel a raid night to attend their own child's piano recital. The true heroes of World of Warcraft.
That is crazy. I've seen it a little bit, just in chats and in a couple of guild chats. Yeah, people are like hardcore about their guilds, about the raiding. And I think that's what has deterred me from endgame entirely, is that raiding seems so intense. It doesn't seem casual at all. I mean, raiding is supposed to be the highest form of endgame, etc. I get it and everything, but I feel like the ceiling to get into raids with groups is like you have to be at this time, and you have to get all these buffs, and you have to pull a certain amount of DPS or heal or tank or whatever. raiding is not very casual friendly, or at least I have not come across a very casual friendly guild or community when it comes to raiding.
Depending on your server, casual guilds are definitely in the minority on Cataclysm Classic, which you can easily see by checking out the server discords. And honestly, that's fine. This is exactly what Cataclysm Classic was designed to be, and it stayed true to that vision. If it made Classic Cataclysm easier, it would have alienated its core audience. Over the past 4 years, Classic WoW has cultivated a more hardcore community. Sure, with some exceptions, the game has been too...
I think from the little I experience about World of Warcraft Classic, it's been extremely hardcore. It's been min-maxing right out the gate. And maybe it's just the nature of the game that the game is done. People have figured out the game, and now you're just min-maxing the shit out of it right out of the rip. But it's not very inviting to new people, I think. Though I have to say, with the fresh start of Deviant Delight, that like community project of a classic era fresh start, I have found a lot, like that one, from what I have seen, had cultivated a very positive community, very inviting to new people.
Easy for a lot of players, which has sparked a craving for more challenge.
Also, can we just take a look at these fucking add-ons? Like, it is insane. If that's what it takes for raiding, like, you don't just have to understand the game, but you have to understand, look at everything that is going on this screen. Like, it is insane. What is like this on the left right here? These are like all paladins or something. But then this guy, is he buffing? Is that an add-on for buffs? All the people that he had buffs on or something? This is his group. Okay, I get it. His UI looks different because he has using elf UI or whatever. That's fine. But holy shit, look at this. How do you keep track of all these different macros you have down here? I don't get it. You know, like, how do you do that? And then over on the right here, you see it not too well with the camera. He has 3 different things for from details. He has a threat meter, a damage meter, and a healing meter, all the way on the right. And then look at these buffs. Okay, a lot of these are like buffs that just, you know, proc throughout right here, a couple seconds, abilities from teammates, whatever. But then look at this still, 28 minutes, 28 minutes, 28 minutes, 21 minutes, 21 minutes, 41 minutes. Like, what? That's a lot. That is a lot going on this screen. So basically, I would say roughly 40% of the screen is taken up by buffs, by add-ons, and then even his UI is like right that smack in the middle, and then just a little bit for the actual gameplay. That is crazy.
Challenging content, but there's still a significant...
Like, if I look at that as a new player, I have no idea what WoW is about, I never want to raid. Like, this looks stressful.
Significant portion of Classic WoW's audience who prefer a more relaxed raiding experience. Season of Discovery was delivering that until Sunken Temple, which...
I mean, he still has a shitload down here, but this looks already a lot cleaner. I think, at least.
An emboss more difficult.
Maybe his icons are just smaller.
This is a major reason why so many people have walked away from Classic WoW. It just doesn't have that same broad appeal as it once did. In a recent interview, Blizzard explained that Season of Discovery was meant to be very experimental. Some things work great and others not so much. I'm almost inclined to give Blizzard a pass on this one. It's important to try new features and see what sticks.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Even mentioned
you're just gonna try some new things.
To label SOD as Classic Plus because getting it wrong could have led to major disappointment. Fair enough. There's a lot riding on Classic Plus. It has to be perfect because realistically it is the future of Classic WoW.
I mean, I get it, it has to be perfect, but how likely is it really going to be perfect? It's not. There's always people that are going to have something to say about it, and it's never going to be the right thing for everyone. you'll always have like the hardcore camp, the classic Andes, the retail Andes that it's not gonna hit whatever they want.
Some Pandaria Classic, that's not the future. That's exactly what the most of a classic audience don't want. But some of the features they added to Season of Discovery were doomed from the start. Like a Take That member trying to start a solo career when your name isn't Robbie Williams. Nightmare incursions, overcomplicating classes with too many abilities, and making the raids excessively difficult, these were brainless decisions that could only been made from developers that really don't get classic WoW. Hopefully, after losing over 1 million subscribers, they finally learned that lesson.
Wow,
Well, this is what concerns me about the classic dev team. Do they truly understand classic WoW? Do they play enough to understand what players want? Are they familiar with other old school MMOs and why their communities remain loyal?
That's what it looked like.
It's so different from modern MMOs like Retail WoW. Do they get why Retail WoW isn't growing, hasn't for years, and probably never will? Can they pass the old school MMO vibe check? Honestly, I think before anyone can join the Classic WoW dev team, they should have to prove that they've logged at least 10 days playtime on their account in Classic.
I love it. That is so good. That is amazing. I agree. that would be fun. 10 days played. So 240 hours played in Classic in order to be on the dev team. I think that would be great. I would hope that all the devs have played Classic WoW. I would hope that none of them are just in there and making decisions about Classic WoW without ever having played it. I hope they all locked at least something. I think, how can you expect someone to work on a game and make a game better if they don't play it themselves and don't love it themselves? Like, I think that, it doesn't make sense.
That should be a minimum requirement. It's painfully clear that some members of the Classic WoW dev team are just going through the motions, with very little passion or interest in Classic. The features introduced in Season of Discovery make it obvious that whoever is calling the shots is completely out of touch with what the Classic WoW audience actually wants. Unfortunately, this is the harsh reality of game development when a new studio is trying to make a name for itself.
Endgame content, he only rises something to inspire. Oh god. Like, yeah, I agree.
They're driven by determination and passion, but once a company has been established for a few years, that fire often fades. Every game developer seems to have their peak. Blizzard with Wrath of the Lich King, Bethesda with Skyrim, CD Projekt Red with The Witcher 3, and then it's just all downhill from there. And bringing in new talent won't necessarily fix this, because the current climate of the video game industry is one where people are more likely to leave it than to join it. When you can
Yeah, I think from the little I know about the game industry and what I've seen, it's an absolute shambles. Like, there's, like the big studios are just so focused on money instead of making great games.
Consider the future of Classic Plus is in the hands of Blizzard and the current Classic WoW dev team. It's hard to not feel uneasy, especially with the news that Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, or whatever the hell this corporate monstrosity they're called now, is unionizing. Now, I'm not against worker unions. Blizzard is probably the perfect example of a company that needs one. But the downside is that bad developers who have no idea what they're doing might end up sticking around longer than they really should.
Yeah. But I don't think that has much to do with the union is a really good thing. I think the union is well needed for this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if I would write it on that, like, might stick around longer than they should. I think the union itself is just a good thing.
A lot of Classic players are now left with nothing to play, and let's not forget that Season of Discovery is just getting started. It still has to go through every single phase of raid releases at endgame, which is going to take at least a year. So what are Classic players supposed to do for a whole year without a solid MMO to dive into? Sure, people will always come back to WoW, but Blizzard risks losing chunks of their subscriber base to other MMOs in the meantime. For now, many Classic players might have to accept their fate as an MMO refugee. I've already met plenty of people in other MMOs who admit they're WoW refugees. Maybe there's a silver lining here. Perhaps some players will discover an MMO they end up liking more than WoW, but the truth is, if Blizzard wants Classic WoW to return to its former glory, they need to take some serious action.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I've seen it at least in my YouTube recommended feed, it pops up a lot. These the WoW refugees. I agree. Classic era servers are done. There's nothing else coming. It's right now. It's even though the hype already has died. There was, like it was great. The hype of Deviant Delight of Zandalorian Tribe and the EU. Let's create our own version of Fresh Start, etc. And stuff. Great. However, I already see that kind of dying. I've seen it in the guild that I was in Classic Era relatively quickly. It kind of died. I mean, people created fresh characters and they went back to their level 60s. Etc. You have a couple streamers that keep a community around, like Showbeck, for example, with Bankai. I'm sure but he's keeping that part alive. And then Hardcore WoW lost a ton of community throughout. Now it's gaining a little bit of traction back. I think Soda Poppin announced that OnlyFangs is going to start back up with Zuru in, I think, a few weeks or months into the War Within. So then Hardcore WoW is going to make a little bit of a comeback. But I agree. Like, what are people supposed to play? People are going to come back to play the War Within. Season of Discovery was a great experiment, and I'm glad they did it. But I've not played it through the end, so I can't say. But from what I hear or from other people, it's like Season of Discovery was, well, phase 2 or phase 3 was horrendous, etc. So I think they have a lot to do with Season of Discovery. Overall, I think it was a good concept to take a crack at it. Classic Cataclysm, I don't know, and then it just, I think Kata is kind of where you're starting to, at least where you're starting to lose me in that sense, because it's getting too much. You're getting into retail where things becoming too much. And then how long are you going to keep riding on the classic expansions? I really hope they don't do classic Mr. Pandaria, classic Warlords of Draenor, or classic Legion. Oh boy, that'll be bad, I think. Right now it feels like there's no, like, where is WoW gonna go? Retail, of course, the War Within people are gonna come back. The next couple expansions, yeah, people are gonna come back for that. But in the meantime, what are we really gonna grind? I mean, we saw it just now at the end of Dragonflight. If you logged in, your queue times for dungeons are 10 minutes. No one is really advertising keys. I tried to like chat up a couple people a few times in retail. Nothing, it's relatively empty for a big MMO like this. And it's going to be the same with the War Within. It's just, I mean, it's always going to go in phases, but I think overall that it's trending more down than it is up. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what Blizzard is going to do about it. It would be great, but I'm a little afraid that everyone is like chasing this nostalgia, and I don't think we're ever going to get it back. And maybe it's just that us gamers are getting older and older, and we're trying to hang on to the feeling of the game that we had when we were, a lot younger. And I don't think we're going to get that nostalgia feeling back the way. It's never going to feel the same as it did, when we first played. Whatever MMO it is, with any MMO. I had it with different MMOs that I played growing up. And I've tried to chase that nostalgia feeling in the current version of the game, in private servers, and it's never feels the same because always small things change. And I'm afraid a lot of us will not get that, what we're looking for with Classic. We'll never get that back. The feeling that we first had when we opened up the game at the, for the very first time. I don't think we're ever going to get it back. I think there's going to be a new set of players, and I think WoW needs to adapt to probably the next generation of WoW players, and we might just be kind of done with it with WoW. Maybe that's just the way it goes, but you let me know. Yeah.